Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Stranger Things 4, Stranger Things Season 4. By the way, spoilers for all of Stranger Things in this content. And today what I want to talk about is the resurrection of Max Mayfield by 11 in Stranger Things Season 4. It's an incredibly important, incredibly exciting part of Stranger Things 4. And I want to explore today, what is the message that the Duffer brothers want you to understand about Dungeons & Dragons from Stranger Things 4? All right, so I have already posited, if you don't understand how Stranger Things 4 is a vector for a message being carried by the Duffer brothers, look at the link below. And I'm linking, and I've already discussed how the Duffer brothers built a trilateral risk-based communication system between Netflix, the Duffer brothers, and the Dungeons & Dragons team. Okay, so Stranger Things 4 is a message carrier, right? And the resurrection of Max Mayfield is a very powerful message that the Duffer brothers are trying to, in my humble opinion, are trying to make about Dungeons & Dragons. All right, so let's get into it. So what is the meaning of the resurrection of Max Mayfield? So one, let me just kind of set the table here. All right, so Max is Lucas's girlfriend. She is the redheaded girl who is a skateboarder and has joined the party. The party is Whale DM, Will, Lucas, Dustin, Mike. Okay, Mike Wheeler, Dustin Henderson, Will Byers, and Lucas. I'm forgetting Lucas's last name. Lucas Sinclair, okay? All right, so basically, you have that team there, and Max comes along and kind of attaches herself later to the group, right? And actually, she is pursued out of romantic interest from Lucas and Dustin, and it becomes romantically involved with Lucas and rejects Dustin, right? And so, which is a little hard to watch, right? Like, it's just feel bad for Dustin. He never seems to win. Oh wait, I'm wrong. He got a girlfriend in season 4. I totally forgot. Season 3. He got a girlfriend in season 3. All right, that's right. Okay. I was thinking of season 1, season 2, Dustin. All right. So the resurrection. So Max attaches herself to the group, becomes romantically involved with Lucas. And then at that point, she is attached to all the craziness that is Hawkins, Indiana, and the party, right? Because they are constantly going up against monsters, which they understand and they defeat through their knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons. It's very specific. It's the path they choose and how they actually craft and do all of this and actually arrive where they need to, with Dungeons and Dragons overall. Right, so they use Dungeons & Dragons as a tool in their lives to overcome obstacles. That's fascinating. I wonder who talks about that on the internet. Right? Like, in my humble opinion, that's the real use of Dungeons & Dragons. All right. So, and what's funny is Duffer brothers seem to be telling you the same thing I've been telling you for 2 years, and they are doing it clearly, very clearly. Like, there's mounting evidence that this is all there, right? And that this isn't Chutes and Ladders. It's not just a game, right? Like, in fact, like, who you spend the rest of your life with could be determined by Dungeons and Dragons. It's pretty wild. All right, so the whole thing, it's incredible. So let's talk about the resurrection of Max Mayfield. So Max goes on an adventure with the rest of the party and the party's auxiliary forces, right? And she is captured by Vecna. And Vecna breaks both of her arms like twigs, breaks one of her legs like a twig, puts her up, and begins to literally just shred her humanity and move her toward death, right? And he succeeds. I think it is incredibly clear, in my humble opinion, if you're watching the show, she dies, right? And then 11, from a sensory deprivation pool, which is made out of a pizza freezer with 600 pounds of salt, right? 11 reaches her and resurrects her. What is the message from this? Okay, so first of all, the Duffer Brothers are SMEs. They're subject matter experts when it comes to Dungeon Master, when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons and Dungeon Masters and Dungeons and Dragons players, right? And so they are saying something here. Now, what does resurrection mean in Stranger Things 4, and what does resurrection mean in Dungeons and Dragons? Well, it's really, really, really fascinating, okay? So first of all, I love Stranger Things, right? And so one of the things I'm an evangelical Christian, right? And one of the things I despise is evangelical Christians rolling up on Hollywood content and going, oh, blah, 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 it does not hold to my evangelical Christian values. So like, well, of course it didn't. Like this is a vegan showing up at a barbecue pit, right? Like, like, I'm an evangelical Christian. I love movies, right? Like, so I don't complain when a Hollywood movie is a Hollywood movie. Of course, it's not going to have my values in it, right? So the reality is, you arrive, and so the Duffer Brothers, so basically, Stranger Things 4, every family, every single character, there is no exception to this, is irreligious, right? They are non-religious. They are nuns, right? Now, this is very anachronistic for the 80s. There were a lot more religious people in the 80s, and in America, in Hawkins, Indiana, you would have definitely run into some very religious people. They are nowhere to be seen in Stranger Things 4. So what's interesting is 11 knows about resurrection. She knows about bringing somebody back from the dead to life. How did she learn that? She did not learn that from any religious person. And the reason why is there are none, right? Papa, super evil government, dude, he certainly didn't teach her any religion. Mike's family is completely non-religious. So the Wheelers are non-religious. The Byers are non-religious. And then poor Dustin, his dad left him, and all he has is his mom and his cat. They are not religious, right? And the Sinclairs are not religious, right? So no one taught 11 about resurrection from where it comes from. Guess what? I'm an evangelical Christian. We own resurrection, baby. Like nobody talks more about resurrection than evangelical Christians. Like, it's super important to us, right? So we kind of own that space, right? Like, so she didn't learn from that. So where did she learn it from? Oh, guess what? 11 learned about resurrection from Dungeons and Dragons. Now, how would she do that? Well, Will Byers loves Dungeons and Dragons. Mike Wheeler loves Dungeons and Dragons. Mike Wheeler loves 11. Mike Wheeler puts 11 into a few of his Dungeons and Dragons games, and then because her boyfriend is probably squawking at her about Dungeons and Dragons nonstop, which there's a lot of evidence that we get that is the case, right? So 11 has goodwill, and so 11 learned about resurrection through D&D because it's the only source she could learn it from, right? She's not around any religious people, right? So they're the only So two things in the world, the IRL world today, discuss resurrection: Christianity and D&D, right? When it comes to America, right? This is an American show, and it's about America in the 80s, right? So 11 learned about resurrection through Dungeons and Dragons, right? Now, the Duffer Brothers, I've already discussed the death of Eddie Munson. Now we're discussing the resurrection of Max Mayfield by 11, right? And so what the Duffer Brothers are saying is Dungeons and Dragons is philosophy. Dungeons and Dragons is the deepest, most important aspects of humanity, right? Life over death. And the Duffer Brothers are saying, hey, Dungeons and Dragons discusses the afterlife. When you die, is there a path back? Or can you be resurrected? Dungeons and Dragons says, yes, your deity, there's no agnosticism, right? There is no atheists in Dungeons and Dragons. The gods are real, right? Like, so atheists and agnostics look like complete fools in Dungeons and Dragons because they're like, hey, this is Pelor, he's right over there. Like, he showed up and he showed out and you're healed and you have 32 hit points. It's hard to be an agnostic or an atheist when Pelor just healed you. Okay, like, this isn't up for discussion, atheist or agnostic, right? And so the Duffer Brothers are like, hey, we want to talk about religion. We want to talk about resurrection. And guess what, y'all? It's coming straight from the mouth of the Duffer Brothers, right? Dungeons and Dragons is the deepest end of the pool when it comes to humanity. We talk about life. We talk about death. We talk about life beyond death. Right? There are no limits for Dungeon Masters. There are no limits for Dungeons and Dragons players, right? And I think the Duffer Brothers are running headlong, right? The Duffer Brothers are very devout followers of the legacy of Gary Gygax. They want his legacy to shine. And Gary was like, no corner of humanity's exploration, the exploration of social interaction, the exploration of ourselves, the exploration of the fights we have, combat. Dungeons and Dragons is something different. This ain't Chutes and Ladders, people. This ain't a game. This is a functional tool for life. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.